We did it. We are back with another Playful Human podcast, this time with Matt O'Neill from Good Mood Revolution. That's the name of his book and podcast. If you're a podcast listener or watcher, you'll find Good Mood Revolution wherever you're watching this week. Also, the website is matto'neill.com. You can, like I said, check out the book. You can take an awesome mood superpowers quiz. Find out your primary good moods or your primary bad moods. We'll talk more about that and a whole lot more here on the Playful Humans podcast this week. You need information on Playful Humans? Go to playfulhumans.com. Here we go. All right, Matt, we like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week this week is brought to you by the Magic 8 Ball. I asked my Magic 8 Ball if I should buy Microsoft 365, and it said Outlook not good. Okay.
Hey, man, are you a Mac guy?
I'm actually not. No, I'm
okay. I am. So that joke hits even harder with me.
Good. I'll have some about Apple too, I'm sure. But the official joke of the week is, if you ever see a dog at the zoo, you know it's a Shih Tzu.
All right. Okay, I'm in. It took me a minute.
That's all right. Do you have a joke? Can you beat it?
You know what? Why can't you ever see elephants hiding in trees?
Ooh, I don't know.
Because they're really good at
it. For sure. All right. That'll get us started in the right mood, hopefully a good mood this morning. So let's talk about how you got into this, because I think it's awesome what you're doing. You're having fun. You're spreading happiness. You're helping people, live their best life. How did you get here? Did you have a bad mood for a while and have to find a good mood, or have you always been?
So look, like the only reason that you coach people on anything is because you've struggled with it. And I'm a happiness coach, and I coach people on how to be happy. And it's because I struggled with how to be happy for so many years myself that, like all a coach is somebody that's figured something out and then is now able to teach it. And I was in the depths of all the 8 bad moods that I talk about. And I struggled with it like hardcore, in the darkness. And thankfully I found my way out. And it wasn't like one epiphany that got me out. Of course, there were several epiphanies along the way, but it's like generational trauma that was passed down. So typically if we trace back our pain, it comes from somebody who is in pain, and you trace back their pain and it comes from somebody who is in pain, and you trace back their pain. Well, I ended up playing that game because my dad created a lot of pain for me when I was a kid. And I'm like, of course, as a kid, I didn't know that he was messed up because his parents were messed up. And I didn't know this. I just figured that I was in line for pain because I wasn't lovable. This is what a child's brain will come up with. As an adult, I figured it out because I started to study all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. So only hurt people hurt people. So how was he hurt? And it turns out that he was hurt because his dad was an Irish immigrant. And it was in 1904 when he landed here in the United States, and he landed in New York City. Have you ever seen that movie Gangs of New York?
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio, and like it was like a rough place. Well,
rough time in general. I was going to say that. Like, I think we're of similar age, and our parents lived somewhat of a life that we can relate to, but our grandparents did not. They grew up in like the Depression and World Wars and all kinds of unrecognizable America. I'm in the Midwest on farms, like eating what they can grow and kill and with their bare hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, and people are always like, "Oh man, how can you talk about happiness when the world is in such shambles?" And I'm like, "This is the best the world has ever been, ever. Like just go back 100 years,
Yeah.
And 6 million people were put into gas chambers. It's like our problems today are way kinder.
Yeah.
And I understand there's wars and there's Gaza and there's everything, right? But it is such a smaller scale than where we were just 100 years ago. And you go back 1,000 years before that, and it was like everyone's just trying to not be killed by somebody else. And so the world's actually the nicest it's ever been. And so with this, I'm a rosy happiness guy. And I also just look at the truth. And this is the truth, is that this is the best it's ever been, and it's getting better.
Well, that's what I think there. And not to cut you off, but I have a couple of thoughts there. One, I saw a great, I think it was in a YouTube video recently where the guy was pretty well off, like a famous actor, author or something. And he said, like, what can I do that like Louis the 14th would be like totally impressed by, right? Not like, they had a lot of stuff back then, but they didn't have modern dentistry and technology or like, what could I do? And you really can't buy like that much of a better house, but you could do some cool things. You can travel, you can, take a plane and be somewhere that would just blow the mind of somebody that was,
dude, you can flush a toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
You can turn on you can turn on a light switch. You can have air conditioning. You can sleep in a bed with a mattress. These are all things Louis the 14th couldn't do. And, and it's like, so anyway, we've become very
I wanted to ask you about the generational trauma, because I have some conflicting ideas here about this. I totally believe in the factor, but I'm wondering kind of your thought on the nature versus nurture part. I've heard that like sometimes the mother's good mood or bad mood while you're pregnant, or the amount of stress they're carrying, can affect your baseline levels of stress that you carry, and
absolutely,
and even your DNA and cells and stuff. But I also think that a lot of it is just psychological. If you have parents that, don't want children or see you as a stress or burden, you start to internalize that and stuff. Do you think it's a combination of both, or one more than the other? Especially when you talk about generational stuff, I think a lot of it comes from the circumstance, and then their head trash kind of gets passed on to your head trash, or sometimes it even flips where, my father was really loud and angry, so now I'm going to be quiet and reserved so that I don't get attention. And it can be the opposite. But then you create children that are loud and obnoxious because they didn't, feel like they were being heard because you were so quiet. Or something.
Here's the reality. And my book talks about this. There's only 8 negative moods. So there's variations of the 8 negative moods. Just taking a very easy one, there's fear. Well, fear also shows up as anxiety. It's the same thing. We're afraid, we're anxious. It's just the same mood. So there's only 8 core negative moods. And in any generational trauma, whether you think that it's nature or nurture, either way, all it is that we're just putting in pattern these 8 negative moods. And when we believe these 8 negative moods, and none of them are true unless we believe they're true, like this idea that I should be afraid all the time or anxious all the time, that's true if we believe it's true. And the opposite of it is also true, which is I believe that I'm blessed and I'm guided and that I'm protected all the time. Either one we believe is true. It's just which one is going to make me feel happy. And so my book is about the power of conscious happiness. It starts with overcoming or conquering the 8 negative moods. I call them lies. I say each of these 8 negative moods has a lie associated with it. I call it a lie because I don't want you to believe it anymore. And so if you say that's a lie, and then the truth is the opposite of that lie, then you're going to start to believe the opposite of the negative mood, which is going to turn into a very happy life. But when I was growing up, so what happened, my grandfather, his mom and his brother died of tuberculosis when he was 5. And so now he's on the streets of New York, got an Irish accent. The Irish are the scabs. They're taking jobs for anything, for pennies, like working for pennies, and then all the New Yorkers who were like real New Yorkers who immigrated like 50 years before these Irish New Yorkers, like they're the homegrown New Yorkers. They were like, you guys aren't as good as us. Well, everybody says that to you and you believe it. And, and so then my grandfather's dad is taking the only job he can. He's literally shoveling horse manure out of the police station stalls. That's the only job, like as low as you can get. He has to shovel poop to survive. And he takes up drinking. Why not? You know, your wife died, your son died, you have to shovel horse manure. Everyone you know, everything you know is gone. You're not in Ireland. You're in this town that nobody likes you. And while he's shoveling this poop, one of the horses kicks him in the head and he dies. And my grandfather is now an 8-year-old orphan in a place that doesn't like him and doesn't want him. And he believes this lie. I'm not worthy of being cared for. I'm not worthy of love. In fact, I'm worthless. We can understand why a child who had his experience would believe that lie. Who created that lie for him? He did.
Yeah.
His childhood brain took just life experiences. His mom didn't mean to die. His dad didn't mean to die. His brother didn't mean to die. That just happened. Sometimes life has experiences. And then he made a story about those experiences, which said, I'm not worthwhile. Well, he ends up meeting my grandmother, who also had her father die. And, you know, it's 19, for her, it was 1906. And her mom is 20 years old and she's got a child. And in the early 1900s, women didn't just go get a job. It's not like, oh, I'll just be a secretary. That didn't exist. Right. Women weren't workers. So she did what she thought she had to do. She gave my grandmother away to her parents to raise, and she went and got a new husband to take care of her. And she had 5 more kids that she kept and she raised. Wow. Now, this little girl, my grandmother, she says, and she made up a lie. I'm unlovable. I don't deserve a dad. My own mom doesn't want me. Was it true? Did her own mom not want her? No, it was a lie. She just believed this story that she created. And who could blame her for creating that story? And we all create these stories when we're kids. I did too. But my grandmother and grandfather met, and they were instantly attracted because they both believed the same lie, which is we have a signature, emotional signature. For them, this is the lie of shame. And we all have a frequency. Well, our frequencies attract. Our vibe is our tribe. So they would instantly attracted to each other. Like, oh, you get me? You don't think you're lovable? I don't think I'm lovable? Great. We should get together and not love each other. And so they got together and they had 2 children, 2 sons. My dad was one of those sons. And what did they tell him? You're unlovable. In fact, they didn't want him to find out from the world that he was worthless. So they just told him he was worthless so he wouldn't be so hurt and blindsided. They were doing the best they could, right? They weren't bad people. They, in fact, were trying to help their son by beating the crap out of him and making sure that he knew the world was a hard place and they were going to be hard on him. So he grew up thinking, I'm worthless. My parents don't love me. They beat the crap out of me. So then when I'm born, what does he do to me? The same stuff, right? Yeah. Tells me I'm worthless. He doesn't think he's worth anything. All of this innocently started from an orphan and someone who lost a dad and was given away, right? Like this is, if you trace back this pain, you will find that the person that caused you pain had their own pain. And then once you can understand somebody, you're like, oh man, maybe they're not so bad. So I grew up thinking my dad was a terrible person. But if you think about this, like in the 1950s and the 1960s, there wasn't YouTube that he could go study how to become better. Sure, How to Win Friends and Influence People was out there. There was a couple books, Think and Grow Rich, he could have gotten his hands on, but it wasn't like this cultural thing where everybody's trying to be the best for it. No, it's like, be a man. He was in Vietnam, be a man. Man up, don't talk about your stuff. Just beat your kids. Like, that's what men do. Yeah. You know,
well, let's talk about fixing it a little bit, because I'm with you, and I've seen the story, and I think the hard part is a lot of people believe that that's permanent. They believe that lie can't be changed or that their situations can't be changed, and obviously we can't change the past, but there's some things we can do about our present and our future. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on how you personally changed that past.
Well, for me, I believed the lie because my dad told me I was worthless, and I believed it. Who would blame me? I was a kid.
Right.
But then what's so cool is that I'm the one who chose to think I was worthless. As soon as I'd said, I want to think something different, which is the truth, which is I'm really worthwhile. In fact, I'm pretty freaking amazing. As soon as I started to say the opposite of this lie, and I started to reprogram it. And this is the thing, every single belief that we have is running our life. And they're subconscious. All our beliefs are usually subconscious. So I had this subconscious belief that said that I didn't deserve good things. And then what would I do subconsciously? Sabotage everything that was good. Every girl that loved me, I cheated on her. So made sure she didn't want to be with me so that I would drive her away. Well, I was doomed to play that out until I woke up from it and said, I don't want these results anymore. So I need to go find these beliefs and then change them. And it's really simple. You just say what you want. So I put affirmations in my shower. I had, okay, who do I want to think? I'm lovable. I'm awesome. I'm like so successful. I'm going to earn this amount of money. Like I put all just the things I wanted to be, what I wanted to think. I laminated it and I put it in my shower. And I started to repeat it to myself over and over again. And what happens is when we repeat the lie, we find evidence about why it's true. I'm worthless. Well, I'll do some things to prove the world I'm worthless. I'm the best. I'll do some things. And I start to find evidence. Oh man, I was pretty cool there. I was pretty cool there. After I repeated these affirmations enough times, and I started to find all this evidence about why they were also true or even more true, I started to behave in ways that was going to like accept the new person I was becoming. And when I met my wife, I was starting to become somebody that would no longer cheat on a girlfriend. And she, of course, made fun of the affirmations in my shower. She's like, this is interesting the way you decorate. And, but then she didn't laugh about the human being I was.
Yeah.
And so this is very, very simple, but I went to some Tony Robbins conferences and ended up hiring a Tony Robbins coach, his number one coach, a guy named Steve Gill. I worked with Steve for 7 years. And Steve said, if you don't do affirmations, if you don't say mantras, if you don't speak your life into existence, you don't really know Tony's work. And Tony tells his story about how when he was a teenager, a very similar kind of situation, his mom chased him out of the house with a knife. And he's on the streets as a teenager. He doesn't have any money. So he starts to be a janitor at night and go to school during the day. And while he's a janitor, he's listening to Jim Rohn tapes. And Jim is saying, work harder on yourself than you do your job. Like become the person you want to become. And so he's putting in his mind who he wants to be. But one night he gets done with his shift at 3 a.m. and he's sitting out at the bus stop so he can get home to his friend's couch where he was sleeping and so that he could get to school. And somebody drives by and says, man, all the bus drivers are on strike. And he's like, man, my life is just garbage. Here my parents don't love me. I'm having to work all night and then go to school all day. And now I'm 10 miles from my house and I don't know how to get home. It's the middle of the night. And he goes for a run. It's the first time he ever went for a run. And on the entire run, he starts to repeat a mantra. Everything in my life is getting better and better. I'm becoming stronger and stronger. And this mantra he repeated for 10 miles. By the time he got to his house at 4 a.m, he said he had turned himself into a new human being just by repeating a mantra that he was becoming stronger and stronger and better and better. And at that point, his whole life turned around. So sometimes we're in like this darkest place. And if we just start to say really positive things to ourselves in a powerful way, we can change our life. And these stories kind of illustrate that.
Yeah, I have been a big fan of beliefs and affirmations. My dad studied all of the stuff that you're talking about. So all the way from Think and Grow Rich, all the way up to modern day psychology and stuff. And the first time I did a beliefs writing workshop was one called, the Pacific Institute. And it was amazing. I lost like 20 pounds, doubled my income, and like had a girlfriend within like a year. It was crazy.
And you're like, oh, holy cow. This is actually how everything is created. Yeah. Like, and it is, and it does, like, it sounds simple. Well, if it sounds simple, the most things are simple. It just requires putting them into practice. So how did you, once you went to that belief writing workshop, how did you install those new beliefs?
Well, it's interesting. I have gone back and forth in a lot of different, apps, journaling, repeating things. I had them all on note cards and stuff. But for me, I think the active writing is a better one. Have you ever heard of the creations theory?
No, please tell.
One of my favorite concepts of all time, that the first time you think of something like, I don't know, I want to play for a living. I want to, have some sort of artistic career. That's the first creation of that idea in the universe. You becoming a famous juggler or whatever has never existed. Now we've given you that idea. That's the first creation. When you write it down, it's the second creation of that goal, because now it exists in the physical world. There's a piece of paper out there outside of your head that says, Matt's going to be a famous juggler. I don't know why I'm putting this on you all of a sudden.
I can juggle pretty well, man. Like I've got the throw behind the back. I got the throw under the leg. Yeah, I've got juggling down.
All right, so we got something. Going here. But what happens is when you tell somebody else, it becomes like a third creation. Or if you tell a group of people, you start creating it in their minds, and they start looking for opportunities for you to be on stage and juggle or find opportunities for you. And so that goal or that idea just naturally becomes more and more powerful. And that's how I wrote my first book. I created the affirmation and the goal and a visualization. I love vision boards, that I would have a book deal. And I started telling everybody I was writing a social media book. I told the CEO of Sandler Training, a sales training company, and they picked up the book, and then they told people at LinkedIn, and LinkedIn picked up the book. And all of a sudden they said they would send it out to all of their Sales Navigator subscribers if I wrote the book by August 15th. So now all of a sudden there were like hundreds of thousands of people waiting on me to write this book and be the person that I wanted to be. What do you think I did? I wrote the book. I had no choice at that point. And so all these beliefs became bigger than me, and I had to sit down and crank out the book. And it got out there, and over 80,000 downloads and stuff later. And I just wrote my second book. I now have the life that I envisioned in my head 15 years ago.
Yeah, but we all do. And beautiful story.
That's true.
And well said. Every single person has a life that we've envisioned in our head. Most of us are just living an unconscious vision. And my book is called The Good Mood Revolution, Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness. What you're describing right now is consciously creating your future. We are all creating everything. So, the person listening right now, everything in your life, your finances, your bank account, the person that you're in relationship with or not, the children you have or don't, the friendships that you have, the spirituality that you have, the body that you have, everything was created by you with your vision of what you should be. And it is completely the way you believe that it should be. Now, you may say, like I was saying, well, I don't actually want this small bank account. I want a bigger one, but you believe that you deserve the bank account that you have. And so this all we have to do is do exactly what Mike is saying. And I wrote my book in the exact same way. An idea came to me. Where did the idea come from? I don't know, the ether. For me, it's a belief in God. Yeah. I had a vision. I was going to write a book, and I'm like, okay, great. So now to put this into practice, this is what I did. Every day I write a best-selling book. I would write it down on a piece of paper, but I wrote it every single day. And I created a vision board, and on the vision board, it says #1 bestseller, and it's got the book, and it says Matt O'Neill on it. And so I'm seeing it every single day. It's still in my closet right now. And then 2 years later, I hadn't made any progress, but I had done all these mental reps that I write this book. I'm skiing in Colorado, and a guy pulls up, and he's on the chair next to me. And it happens to be a 4 times New York Times bestselling author, a guy named Tucker Max. I'm like, dude, Tucker, I've read your books, man. I'm like, they're amazing. He's like, yeah, that's when I was wild, man. And I'm like, well, what are you up to now? And he said, well, now I help people write books. And I'm like, I'm writing a book. He's like, tell me about it. And I said, I'm going to teach people how to not be in bad moods and how to be in good moods. He's like, dude, I want to work with you. That's a book I want to read. Same is your story, right? I created the thought maybe was given to me. You could say I created it. Either way, it doesn't matter. The thought's there. And then I make it physical by writing it down. For me, I want to write it down over and over and over again, because I'm reprogramming myself from believing I'm not an author to I believe I am an author. Put it on a vision board. I'm looking at it so I can tangibly see what my future looks like. And then Did I attract Tucker to my chair? I fully believe I attracted him to my chair. Same way that you attracted the Sandler people to put you on LinkedIn. Like, the world is attracted, like, our thoughts are creative. We are creators. And whatever we think, the world bends to, and there's a bunch of science behind this about why it is true. So now if we want a bigger bank account, I've done it on all areas. I want a more fit body. I'm like, okay, I want to be freaking jacked and shredded. You know what happens? I go to a conference, the dude with the biggest biceps I've ever seen in my life speaks on stage, and he said, I will get you this body. And I'm like, sign me up. And he's like, and so I click the link, and he's like, it's $20,000. And I'm like, I'm in, signed up. I text this guy my weight to the decimal every single morning. And you know what? I'm freaking shredded right now. This was an intention that I had 6 months ago. The guy shows up, and because I had this intention, I was going to get shredded. The guy's in front of me, and then I take action. So we want a bigger bank account. I did.
I love that. Okay. And I think, yeah, I'm getting where you're going there. It's definitely in all areas. And I don't know whether, you can say the universe, God, or our own power. There is something interesting in studies in the brain show that it's like a reticular activating system that we find things that we're looking for, right? And we ignore data that's not relevant to us or things that are dangerous. And so, if we go out looking for problems, we can find them easily. And I equate it to like the search engine algorithm. If you put in puppies and jokes and ice cream every day, the algorithm, YouTube and everything else will serve you more puppies, ice cream, and dad jokes. So, like, that's the way it works. And that's the way the universe works too. So
that's the scientific. Yeah, that's a scientific view of it, is this reticular activating system, which I fully believe in.
External stuff out there too. But
there's 4 billion bits of data that we receive in our senses every day. 4 billion. Okay, it's a huge number. Every single day, there's 4 billion pieces of information that come at us. But our brain is only capable of processing 60,000 thoughts a day. We only speak 6,000 words a day, and we write fewer than 1,000 words a day. What this means is that we can only receive 0.000001% of the data. And we miss 99.9999% of the data. And we only speak or write even smaller decibels of that data. So whatever we focus on, we can find out of the 4 billion bits in the day. Whatever we don't focus on, we omit, because our brain processing system can't process the 99.999% of reality. That's the reticular activating system, and why the science says it. I think it's more magical than that, though. I think it's far more magical. I think we set an intention, and rather than that, the guy shows up on my chair and it just happened to engage him in conversation because it's one of the data points. I think that I actually attracted Tucker to that chair. Right. I think that we set an intention, and so there's another science principle called the Pauli exclusion principle. And this guy, Wolfgang Pauli, received a Nobel Prize in the 1940s for discovering this. It says that every single electron on every single atom in the entire universe has a unique number, like a snowflake. And so, what the number is the distance from the nucleus times the spin times the speed. Now, there are unfathomable numbers of electrons. Let's just say that one has an electron number of 10. Well, if I grab an apple and I put my hands around it and I warm the apple up, and one of the electrons in that apple moves to a 10, an electron billions of light years away that's already a 10 instantly changes, because it can't be the same. What this principle says is that every single atom is connected and is communicating with every single other atom. So when our brain thinks a thought and it's changing the world, it changes the universe, and the universe comes into balance. So we literally, when we think things, everything changes in the universe. And that's why I think it's magic.
That is awesome. Great stuff. Matt O'Neill, Good Mood Revolution is the name of the book and the podcast. Go subscribe to the podcast right now. But before we let you go, Matt, are you ready to play a game?
Family Feud.
Here we go. All right. We surveyed 100 people. The top 5 answers are on the card. You're looking for one right out of the 3 questions we have for you here. The first one is name something that begins with the march of blank.
Dimes.
Number 1 answer, 83 points there. Dimes, penguins, wooden soldiers, time, and ants. All right. Name an animal that best describes a boss. We asked 100 people to name an animal that best describes a boss. What do you think?
A lion.
Ooh, lion is not on there. That's your first miss. Snake, monkey, ape, dog, bear, or donkey.
Well, it makes sense because I am a boss. So, of course, I'm going to see myself as something positive. And the number 1 answer being people don't like their boss. Interesting. They work at bad companies.
Yeah, exactly. Which is true. Unfortunately, more people than not are in that situation. But we're here. We're fighting the good fight to try and change it. All right, last one. We need this one. Name a part of your family budget that is costing more than ever before.
Groceries.
Groceries, you got it. Number 2 answer. Number 1 was the car, gasoline, rent, family events, and heating on the top 5. So you win a free 30-second commercial for yourself and your business. Congratulations. How can you help us, or how can we help you?
Man, I just want the person listening to this episode to continue to listen to you. Dude, being playful and deciding to live a life that is just fun is a choice of ours. And I love that you're doing that. And I'm freaking a big fan of yours, man.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. And I'm a fan of yours. So go check out the book, Good Mood Revolution, Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the good places you need books. Or you can just go to mattoneil.com and check out Matt's work, get some coaching there and stuff as well. And don't forget about that podcast, The Good Mood Revolution. As for Playful Humans, we have a new book out too. Just last weekend, it was the number 1 book in the happiness category on Amazon. Check out Playful Humans. You can get the paperback or the Kindle version available. And until next time, whatever you are, be a good one. That's what I always say. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.